so we'll get started. Call to order. Roll call, Christine.
Michael Dougherty.
Present.
Ronald Medina.
Yep.
Rick Kimbrell.
Here.
David Hosmer.
Here.
Glenn Weston.
Here.
George McCoy.
Here.
Dave Fortin.
Here.
David Richardson.
Here.
Mark Schamberg.
Here. Thank you. Not necessary to seat an alternate, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the January 13th regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Move on to the review of the final grand list calculations. You should also have a copy of that in front of you. All right, any questions? Sure, Donna. Fill in on those? Yes? No?
I can, but I,
Is there anything you'd like to add at this time, or?
No, I-
Unless anybody has any questions, then
I got a couple.
go ahead, David.
Real estate exempt. Can you find that for me?
you have to have the assessor to find that.
So the answer
So the answer is I
Just-
will, I can give you what our grant list, but he'd have to interpret his report for you.
Okay.
And I can certainly, whatever questions you have, email me, I'll forward it to Richard and he'll
All right.
respond.
Those are various exemptions on real estate, like veterans, disabled, various other personal exemptions.
$6,200 for the personal exemptions? I'm just wondering if it was like the academy, high school, the churches.
No, the totally exempt properties do not even appear here. They're a separate part of the grand list.
Okay.
These are all individual exemptions.
Would farm exemptions fall
Yeah,
under there?
not 490.
Not 490.
490 is not an exemption, it's a reduction assessment. But barns exemptions
Right.
would fall in there. That'd be a catch-all, all kind of personal, even business exemptions that are on real estate.
Okay.
And
Just
same
want to
thing-
understand, it's a big number. I just want to understand what it was.
Any other questions on that? All right, if not, we'll move on to presentation from the open space.
Good evening, my name is Joan Adaletta, and I'm the chair of the Woodstock Open Space Land Acquisition and Farmland Preservation Committee. And I'm here tonight to bring you up to date on the latest project that we've been working on, which is the purchase of the development rights of the May Farm, which is, the address is there. It's located in what we think of as East Woodstock. This purchase would be in partnership with the State of Connecticut's Department of Agriculture. So once again, we're leveraging town funds for, they're paying 75% of the purchase of the development rights. The town would be asked to pay for 25% of that. We have the money in the open space fund. This is the fourth project that we've come before the town for to participate in the purchase of the development rights of. And you can see that the amount of acreage is 111 acres. I've given you the lot numbers and the land records if you want to look it up. I do have a copy of one map, which I need back if anybody wants to see back. I tried printing it out, but they came out, my printer's black and white, so it wouldn't make any sense to you if I just brought you a speed bump up. So, you can see I've written down here what the committee is recommending. We've already gone before the Board of Selectmen, and they've, approved this, contingent upon the approval of the Board of Finance to release the funds from the open space fund. All contingent, of course, upon the town vote, the town vote, the voters approving it. And then there's a planning and zoning report that also needs to be done. So we're here tonight to request that the Board of Finance approve the expenditure of up to $75,000 from the open space fund for the proposed purchase of the development rights upon the completion of the planning and zoning report. The state estimates it will be just under $69,000, but that's based on what the deeds say the actual acreage is. Those are always plus and minus. We've learned from past experience to ask for 10% more, and we usually don't spend it, and sometimes it's spent much less. So rather than have to vote twice, we're asking for the higher amount.
Dawn, has the state approved their
The
budget?
state has approved this, yes. The state doesn't let us talk about this until they've approved it and the owners have signed and agreed to the sale, and that their board has approved it. So we started working on this project probably 2.5 years ago. And yes, so now the state is hoping to close the deal in May or June, giving us short notice. So I've been spending a lot of time at a lot of town meetings this month, committee meetings.
Question, where's
Yes.
the, I saw there was an access to, I'm trying to picture it in my mind.
Do you know where the East Woodstock Post Office is? That's the little red house that sits next to the post office. That's the front of, whoever has the map, that's the front of the access. So that's where the post office is.
Okay, that's the post office?
Right.
Okay.
This is Katy Lane.
Yep.
This is Woodstock Road.
Yeah, I'm
East
familiar with the
Woodstock
area, I was
Church.
just trying to
Yeah.
figure out where you could actually
Yeah,
get into it.
yeah.
So that's not, it's not very wide right there, maybe 50 feet or something.
It fits within the planning and zoning regs, so that it could be developed, there would be no development rights to sell, but they couldn't develop the property.
Good.
The land is, this particular parcel is 75% prime ag soils, so it's again, prime ag means not just, good for Woodstock or good for Connecticut, it's a worldwide evaluation of agricultural soils, and so some of the best farm soil again happens to be right here in my little town. So the state is eager to protect property here in our town.
Is it being farmed right now?
Yes, it is. The Mays are not farming it, but right now Matt Peckham is farming it, and he's one of the dairy farmers. It has to be actively farmed in order to qualify for the state's DOAG program, the PBR program.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I'll make a motion, we take the recommended, the Board of Selectmen take this to town meeting.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second? Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
all your
Don.
work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, now we'll move on to old business. Get an update on the school roofs. David, you wanna?
Sure. There's Madonna handed out, actually my notes. That was gonna read it. There have been some delays due to inconsistencies with some costs and physical data on roofs over the last, actually, probably 6 weeks or so. Some spreadsheets didn't match up, and then when we started getting more information for the 49, that didn't match up with the spreadsheets. And then the latest thing was another section of roof appeared on the elementary school, which was in all of the other documents that we've been seeing. So we've been kind of, between Donna and Karen and I and Dave Stein, chasing down and trying to match things up. I think at this point, we've got everything pretty much resolved, as of 4 o'clock yesterday, anyway. And I think we're ready to move forward. There's still a couple of small things, but we're talking another $4,800 of a change in a cost, but that's a pretty small number in this thing. Karen and Don have been working to finalize the estimates on the financing and the reimbursements, so that a plan and a resolution can be drawn up for the Board of Finance, and then that'll go, to the Board of Selectmen at town meeting, and eventually to the referendum. And Don has been working with the town bond council on the language. He did give us something late today. Do you want to?
Well, we're gonna need, moving backwards, we're gonna need, some dates from Alan for the town meeting and referendum, and how to, present the anticipated state grant amount. And we'll need our Board of Finance dates, town planning, meeting. So we're getting closer to the end, really. We're just about there.
Kind of got to pick the end date and then work
Yeah.
backwards so
So
that
we-
it gets through here.
But you guys need to decide when you want to present this to the voters, really what it's gonna come down to tonight. Do you wanna do it when we're doing our budget process? Do you wanna do it in November? Do you wanna do it in the summer? We really need an indication so we can talk to Alan as to what's available.
Well, I think Alan actually has to present it to the town and
Yes.
voters, because it's they and the Board of Education's project, not the Board of Finance's project, so they have to decide when they want to do it.
Right, but I need that for bond council so we can move forward on our end for resolutions.
We keep running into this little chicken and egg problem here.
So if I don't have those dates, we don't move forward.
Well, that being said, I think what we should do is, as long as all the other ducks are in order, we should vote to put this back to the Board of Selectmen to move forward as soon as possible. Based on the information that we currently have.
Well, the only thing to hitch with that, I think, is, I think the language that we have to approve, we have to put forward in a motion.
Correct.
That has to have very specific language.
Yeah.
And the bond council has to draw up that language.
That's correct, yes.
Because there's a whole bunch of pitfalls here to fall into.
What I'm getting at, Dave, is we ought to tell them that we are ready to go forward, so they can set a date. Therefore, we can get the proper paperwork drawn up, the resolution drawn up by the bond council, so that we can have an official vote on it.
Well, maybe you and Mike and Alan should have a discussion. Because, this seriously should be like 30 minutes. Okay, here's the date. As soon as you have that date, everything else falls in line right backwards.
Right.
But, that's the things that has to, you three guys gotta come to an agreement as to when this is gonna go.
Well, we are in agreement that we're going forward with this, correct?
Well, it's what's written here is pretty much the state of
Yeah.
things, right? So, and everybody can read it.
Consensus at the last meeting was we were gonna go forward. And I think what we talked about is going forward as soon as we possibly could, gather all the correct information together.
Right.
And we did not want to go forward in the summertime, we wanted to try to have the vote.
Correct.
Push on now.
So we don't have a problem with the vote being at the same time as the budget.
That's what it turns out.
Right.
Either then or before, yes.
Yeah.
Before would be better.
And everybody's on board with that. All right. And that's what we will
Figure out
do.
the chicken.
We will discuss that with the first selectman to get that squared away.
All right, if there's any questions on what's in here,
Express that preference,
Yes.
because it's done before the budget, so.
So we just ask them to pick a date that they
Yeah.
hold the town meeting?
Yeah.
As soon as possible. Or do we want to say that, or?
Well, yeah, the sooner the better, I mean, as far as that goes, because once the town meeting is held, it doesn't say that you had the town meeting today and you gotta spend the money tomorrow, or you gotta take your next step tomorrow. The town meeting is basically just to have the taxpayers approve the project.
But
you gotta leave yourself some time, because the bond council's gotta draw the language up.
Right.
And that could take him a couple of weeks,
Right.
once we finally give him all
And
the
I think,
information.
he estimated 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
to draw
Yeah,
that.
2 weeks, I mean, we've been communicating all along, but the
Yeah.
numbers kept changing daily.
Well, hopefully now we've settled on a set of numbers so that,
And most importantly, these numbers are the full amount of the bond or ban, first the ban, then the bond. And our reimbursement could be up to 50%, so we're looking at half of this, but
Correct.
we have to present the whole project.
correct.
So don't get, when you see the numbers and what our yearly debt payment is, it's really gonna be in half. And that's very manageable, about a quarter of a mil based on this grant list that we currently have. It's very affordable for the townspeople.
But I think a thing that the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education is gonna have to put forward when they put to the voters is to understand, this is, as best we know, the maximum amount. And there's almost $270,000 in contingencies in here, so it should be safe. That's about 8% variance on the budget, so that should be a pretty good number. But this reimbursement, everybody has told us, you know, you've got to put this out as an estimate. This is what we expect. May not happen that way. So, I mean, it could be as much as $500,000 or $320,000 expense to the town. It's not likely, but who knows? Between now and 2017 or 16, things could change. It's not likely, but it could happen. And the interest rates that are in here are also high. So chances are there's a little bit of difference there, but the difference of 1% is only about $15,000 a year in terms of expense. So it almost, you know, gets lost unless it was a huge difference.
Any other questions or anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm back to trying to understand the timeline here. So we need the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed to set a date for town meeting. Number one, right? That's what we're saying here tonight?
Basically, yeah.
2, now, once we have that, Donna can ask the bond council to draft a resolution.
Which we then have to approve.
That's right, that's 2 weeks. Third item is we have to have a meeting, whether it's our regular one or a special meeting, to vote on that resolution, the wording of that resolution,
Right.
in order for them to hold that town meeting, if they schedule that in this.
But in between it, there's a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yeah.
Which there will be. And as it stands right now, we have meetings already scheduled for March 3rd, 10th, and 24th. So there's no reason why we couldn't take care of that business at one of those 3 meetings. And in between there should be 2 or 3 Board of Selectmen's meetings. So there's no reason why that couldn't be taken care of as well, as long as we have the bond language, resolution language from the bond council.
Now, it also said planning and zoning, do they need to approve this? Because it's required, so they would have to, if need be, that a resolution would be drawn.
Voted on some town projects like the highway garage, some of the road projects we looked at plans. I don't know for sure. I think so. But I'm not sure that you can't meet till
It would be a
afterwards.
maintenance.
This is a repair.
Yeah,
Repair and
it's-
maintenance,
this is a repair.
it's not a.
It's not a
footprint
construction
change,
project.
Or you're not
Well, it's-
changing the building size,
Well,
or.
that very well can be. I'm not saying that I'm the ultimate authority on whether or not they should have it. What I am saying is we should find out for sure.
We'll find that out.
I don't know, the square footage of the roof sure changes from week to week.
Yeah, there's something built somewhere, right?
I think if it changes again, Dave's time will not tell us. We'll have another discussion about it. Seriously, I mean, if we targeted March 3rd for the finance meeting, now does the bond council need actual dates?
I'll find
Put
out
in a
tomorrow.
resolution.
I believe he does, but I'll find out, I'll call him to ask him that specific question.
'Cause
We just need to ask Alan and what dates he has available. We're gonna have to take into consideration public hearing for our budget. We're just gonna have to sit down and look at a calendar. And then as soon as we have those dates, we can move forward. They don't have to vote on dates at their meeting at that point. We just need to know an idea for you, for the bond council to plan out the next step for us.
But I guess the point I was getting at, as soon as you pin down one point, all the rest of the points
Fall into place.
all fall in line, so
Yes.
if you can pin down one point.
Well, also the building committee will have to be there to present to the town.
I mean, after it gets past the Board of Finance, this is really the facilities committee's project.
Right, it's not our project, we're just approving the expenditure.
Right.
You sure? It seems like it's our.
Sometimes it does, doesn't it?
Well, but I think Dave's right. If we just target March 3rd, that'll be the line in the sand. Everybody's got to line up, get all their ducks in a row.
Shoot for that date. Any other discussion on that?
Just like to thank Dave Richardson for all the work he's been doing. He's latched onto this like a pit bull and has seen it through. It's been a very trying exercise for you. I know, Dave, it's much appreciated.
I'd like to thank Dave, and I'd also like to thank Donna.
Donna,
All the work she's put into this. It's above and beyond her scope of work to tackle those items, and she's done that and done a very good job. And David is also.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Dave, because I know what he's gone through. I've gone through it before, so I know what he's gone through.
Well,
I know what it's all about.
he was a huge help, trust me.
I also appreciate
He put a lot of time.
the emails. I know some people probably hate all the emails, but it keeps us all in the loop. And I'm glad we were all
Yeah.
included. I personally.
Good job. All right then, we'll move on to next item under old business. Several months back, I believe it was April and May, that it was brought up to come up with a set of bylaws for the board. And I believe it was you, Glenn, that brought that up.
Sounds like something I would do.
So that being said, there's a piece of business that's out there that we've done nothing about to date, and coming up on a year now, so I think we have to decide where we're gonna go with that.
You don't want to rush it.
No. You could put a roof on the schools before that is done.
Do we have to have bond council write a resolution for that?
I don't believe so, no. I think you- So, basically, what it's gonna take is a couple of people to sit down and probably look at some of the bylaws of some of the other boards, commissions, committees within the town and surrounding towns, and come up with something for us that we can bring forward, discuss, and decide upon. So we're gonna need some people that might be interested to guide it.
Well, I wasn't on the board at this time. Was there a consensus by the board that bylaws were needed?
Not that they were needed, but they should be looked into.
So was that,
So basically, the discussion right now is, are we going forward with this? And if we are, who's gonna take the bull by the horns on that?
I would be glad to be on that subcommittee.
I think before we get to that point, there's other questions that gotta be answered. What are we trying to accomplish? What's the point? If there isn't, if you can't come up with a specific point, the Board of Finance has gotten by without bylaws for at least a few decades I know of.
Well, that's why we're discussing it right now.
But that's what I'm throwing out there. What do we want to accomplish?
Woody?
As I recall, bylaws came up because Dave and I wrote letters to the paper and we did not, attribute it to just our personal remarks rather than, and the concern was that we were, people could confuse that with speaking to the board. So if that was the main reason for bylaws, maybe that could be covered by a policy about letters to say that, because that's a point well taken. If I write a letter, then I should put something on there to explain what my position was. Not that I have to do that now, but Dave would. So that's just one policy rather than getting into the whole thing of bylaws. Just how long have we operated without bylaws?
Long time, forever. Yep. Do any other boards and commissions in the town of Woodstock have bylaws?
P&Z does?
You have bylaws.
They have.
But, I don't think it would hurt to take a look at it. And we may come back, we may look at what the other boards are doing and what other towns are doing, and we may decide we don't need to. That it's not appropriate, it's not something that we need. But we don't really even, we don't even know that yet. We don't know what we don't know, as Dick Cheney might say.
My feeling is that our society is overregulated. Why should we take a throw another regulation that's not really needed?
And we may make that decision that we don't really need to, that there's no reason, or it may lead us down the path, like Woody's saying, is, well, all we really need to do is just clarify this, 1 and 2 points. And
Establish a policy.
Right. And, but at least then we would know that it's not something that we're missing. Or we may find out that, we really would, maybe we would really benefit by having, some clarification about what our, what our mission is and exactly what we're supposed to be doing. But we don't know that at this point. I would think most good organizations have some pretty clear bylaws.
Well, back to my comment about what are you trying to accomplish? If you can't start out with a statement that says, this is what we want to accomplish, and be, specific, and it might be 1 or 2 or 3 things, then all you're doing is basically, throwing things up in the air to see what sticks. That's not a fruitful exercise, and it ends up being what Dave was talking about, rating things just for the sake of rating things. And we certainly have more than enough of that
And
already.
also, we are governed by state regulations, which are all written down. Okay, so why reinvent the wheel? I'll restate the wheel. I don't think there's a flat spot on the wheel, so we don't need to do a whole lot. But that's my own opinion.
That brings up another point, and that's the legal basis for any bylaws. Because you can write whatever you like, that doesn't mean it has any legal binding authority. We fall under state statute, and that's what we have to follow. And if there's any conflict,
State statute rules.
State rules.
You could probably only write bylaws that are stricter, never looser.
Right.
so I don't know that you can go stricter.
Yeah.
Because what's the legal basis for enforcing it?
We need a motion?
Well, basically where we're at is, like I say, it's something that had come up almost a year ago and hasn't been addressed. we can table that again for now.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. There are a couple boards of finance in Connecticut that have bylaws. One of them is Brookfield. You can certainly look at a couple of them and look at their bylaws and see what the gain would be, look at what their bylaws are, because ours would be similar, I would imagine, and see if there's a case to be made for it.
Well, it's my opinion that probably be a good idea that we table that for the time being. And if there is someone or some persons that would like to do some background investigation on that and come back with any information, that we can bring it up again at a later date.
I make a motion, we table it.
Second.
All right, you got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right, good. I see we have a camera out here.
Not making any promises. We'll see how it goes
Well,
tomorrow.
the next question was where we were on the audio, video for town meetings. And Alan is not here to address that. I don't know if anybody else has any information on that. You do? Okay, you.
Yes. So I am recording it, I think. We'll see tomorrow. But there was a little delay because Eric was supposed to explain the uploading. I think it's going to go through YouTube and then it's going to link to the website. So we aren't actually going to store it, that it will be accessible. But we had a little miscommunication with, I thought that was happening before. He wants to do it after. So tomorrow we'll find out if this was successful or not, and then we'll move from there.
Okay. Very good. And Alan again is not here, so we don't know where we are with the matching funds for Camp Nahaco. Does anyone else have any other old business?
See, you're gonna,
You're talking about Camp Nahaco, how was the participation of the two towns? Is there any friction between the two towns as to their contributions to keeping the place going?
Well, this was the thing, the matching funds, and as I say, Alan's not here tonight, so we don't know what the status is on that, so.
You know, from what I was reading in the Northeast Connecticut Village, okay, 'cause it's really not the Woodstock Village, there's nothing about Woodstock in there. There's been some concern by people of Easton on the whole thing. And actually, that was a concern when they decided to get together and buy it. This is how long ago, 10 years ago?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
One of the big problems with Nahaco is that they've never had a consistent plan of development for the park. And they've had a lot of studies done. Actually, Yale School of Forestry did a really extensive study of the park soon after it was purchased. And they laid out a beautiful plan that anybody could have picked up and followed it. It was just like fill in the blanks and run with it. And the Nahaco Commission has been, from my observation, having served on it, it's kind of always been the head chasing the tail. Kind of like what we go around on this roof. That's been Nahaco for the last 10 years. And a lot of people in Eastford are a little upset because the whole premise was sold to them that the camp would be self-funding and it wouldn't be for the taxpayers to pick up. And so I think that's one of the biggest contentions in Eastford is that, people feel now that time's gone by, they're trying to slip something in on them, so it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes through.
Mike, so all that took place on the Board of Finance was to approve matching funds if they approve.
Correct.
their
Yes.
funds.
Yes.
So what's the end of that?
That was between the two towns that work out.
No, I mean, at some point, when are we gonna take our matching funds back?
I would say the fiscal year, at the end of the fiscal year, if nothing's been done, that's when we decided to do it.
Okay.
So when the fiscal year expires, if we haven't expended those funds, it's not something that's gonna continue to roll over year to year.
See, that could be a problem.
It's in the capital non-recurring. It's designated by the Board of Finance for that purpose. It has not gone to town meeting. So at any point in time, you can undesignate that and redesignate it for another project. So it will continue to stay in there.
Right,
year
but
to
we
year.
have not expended the funds. It's-
And it hasn't been voted on at town meeting, so there would be no expenditures whatsoever. But at any point, as the Board of Finance, you can undesignate that.
Rescind it, yeah.
If you're not happy with the project it's designated to. Just so everyone's clear, it doesn't go away, the money, it's in the capital and non-recurring, it just becomes designated to undesignated.
It's reserved right now. So it's reserved fund?
It's reserved, it's assigned. The 10,000 is assigned to Camp Nahaka.
Okay, sorry.
So you can unassign it as a board if you decided to.
And you said town meeting, but it's only 10,000.
And any money that's put into capital and non-recurring, regardless of the amount, has to be voted on at town meeting by the townspeople for that expenditure. If it were 5 cents, $1,
Okay.
and up to the 100,000, anything over 100 require referendum.
10,000 is coming out of capital non-recurring.
I think
For town meeting.
That 10,000 has been designated.
Currently designated.
Designated,
Sorry.
but has not gone to town meeting, so at any point, the Board of Finance can redesignate that.
Without Alan Walker here, it's it's nice discussion, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
But it's good for information for those that aren't aware.
He must be enjoying a sunny beach.
I'm sure he's not shoveling snow where he is.
No, he's not, his driveway hasn't been plowed, so,
Oh, he really is on a southern beach.
yes, I would say so.
All right, we'll move on to review and acceptance of fund balance policy. You've all seen that. This is something we had discussed several times, was recommended by our auditors. Again, thank you, Donna. She put a lot of work into this. It's been looked at by the auditors and approved by them, correct, Donna?
Yes.
I make motion, we accept the general fund balance policy.
Second?
Now we can have a good discussion.
Yeah. All right, we got a motion and a second. Now we're open for discussion.
This policy only binds us, right? We can.
That's correct.
Anytime we decide.
Yeah, this is our policy. Ours
Doesn't
alone.
have to go to anybody else for.
Right.
And we've never had a policy like this before.
No.
Never. In fact, I had challenged it, in September, I sent a memo before the auditors came in to put that on a goal for you guys, if you recall. And then, of course, the auditors pointed out what I had already pointed out to you.
So our previous auditors had brought this up also, or how did this come to you?
No,
How did
I-
this come to your attention?
I go to GFOA conferences, and we met with bond rating, and that was a key thing that all towns should have in order to get a good bond rating, along with other factors. But fund balance policy is key to a good bond rating. So with the fact that you were discussing routes and projects, that's in September is when I had mentioned that we should do this. And then the auditor also reiterated it for a goal for the Board of Finance.
Any other discussion or comments on
Yeah.
it?
I'm just wondering about this, the review modification process. It just says it's subject to review on an annual basis, and just wondering to myself if that's, should say something more like can be reviewed and amended by the Board of Finance at any time. Generally, if you say something like that, you do it in an organizational meeting or something that takes place every year at the same time.
Well, it kind of says, it says on or before the anniversary date of its final approval. So, I mean, it's not overly specific, but it gives you enough wiggle room that you could do it
supposed to
Say
be
after your anniversaries,
You're only gonna do this when you
Discover
do
problem.
well, when you close the books, so to speak.
Right.
You know, you're not gonna do this just any old time.
Right.
So it's really sort of, when you close the books and you find out what the final number is it getting too big, is it getting too small? I mean, if there was some catastrophic event that sort of sucked all the money out of it, that would be a different story, but then I would get a whole lot more attention than reviewing the policy.
I just want to make sure that if it turned out we somehow tripped ourselves up, that we'd be able to amend it by motion and vote at a regular meeting. Just want to make sure that we can.
Well,
If you think it's loose enough, I just want to bring it up.
again, it's our policy. So therefore, we could amend it at any time that we so choose. It's not something that we're forcing down the throats of anybody else. It's just a policy that we are going to follow.
I'm assuming that this is a policy that you got from the state or some, you just,
No, I reached out to the GFOA, my group of treasurers, and they had different policies. I collaborated with several different policies and used some of what they had and some of what I came up with, but a lot of it was what people had sent and just combined a lot of it that took the best of each.
And again, she did send it to the auditors and have them look at it.
right.
I like it.
I think it's excellent, and I think the most important part of it is the explanation of the different fund types, that are in there. I mean, that pretty much sums it up and makes it a lot easier for everybody to understand what we're talking
I wish
about.
we had had this when I came on board 8 years ago.
I assume all those fund balances, the latest GASB definitions which changed.
Right, so,
Understandable.
yep, exactly.
The only thing I really have a problem with is the first paragraph, third page. I don't have a problem with the 8% minimum, but I have a problem with the 12% cap. Where did the 12% come?
Well, we're currently at 12.4, which is the highest we've been in years. I think 12, it's up to you guys. I'm taking the average of what other towns have. That's a month and a half worth of money in the bank for our bills. That's basically what the auditors told us when they came in and talked to everyone. I would like to see more. I don't think it's doable under our restrictions. But you certainly can put it higher. If you want to put it at 13%, 15%, that's up to you guys. I've pretty much mapped it out as best as I can. You guys can figure out that part.
At some point, taxpayers would look at this and say to themselves, why is this stockpile of cash being shoved over here in the corner? And, we're up to about almost $2.8 million now. If it was me, and I was sitting in a town meeting, and my taxes were going up, and, the undesignated fund kept growing year after year after year, I started saying to myself, wait a minute, you guys want more taxes, and you're shoving money in the corner over here. So there's gotta be some realistic limit to it, whether it's 12 or 13 or 14.
Well, I don't disagree there should be some limit, but I thought 12 was kind of low. It immediately puts us over having to get rid of 0.4% of our reserve
Well,
if we adopt this. Since we're already exceeded it. I mean, we're adopting a policy saying, well, we've already succeeded what we want to do. I just thought that was kind of low.
every year, it's it's been the practice of this board to use surplus money to start the following year. So you are already taking from your general fund every year.
That's fine, we can do that, but
But
the
that's
policy
it.
caps it at a,
But, and whatever you
Restricts our-
decide you wanna do, but I want you to look at the full picture here. Every year, that surplus is being used to offset our mill rate. So the chances of us, the reason we're at 12.4 is because of Linda Bernardi going back and getting old taxes, which she's pretty much got that all taken care of. So I don't see a big chunk of money coming our way anytime soon, with our budget, Prop 46. We have, this is it. I don't think you're gonna get it much higher than 12.4. This is the best you're probably ever gonna see in the next 5 years with the town. Unless, all of a sudden, people stop paying their taxes. I don't even mean that. Linda has done such a great job on prior taxes. This is our nest egg. This is it. There's not much left to it. And every year, any surplus we have, we use the following year to offset. So unless we change our ways of that, I don't see this growing much further than what it is.
I've got a couple of comments. What do the financial people say we should have percentage-wise? In other words, people who gives us our bond ratings.
Well,
'Cause I've heard that should be up with close to 20%.
I think the highest I've ever heard was, in fact, when we had one of our presentations, one of the towns in Connecticut was close to 16%, and we were told at that time that that was extremely high.
yeah. From what I recall, even from talking with the bond rating when we did the highway, 10 and 11 was really good.
I think that the auditors said few towns ever get to it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think they said
I mean,
12.
we can set the cap at that level,
Yeah.
okay? But doesn't say we have to reach that level.
No, you could put it at 15 if you want.
that's
as
what
a
my
goal,
argument
making
says.
it-
Why set a cap that we're exceeding?
Yeah.
You know, we're currently over that, and we're saying, well, we always violate our policy from the moment that we adopted it.
Exactly.
You know,
It's not
this is a cap. This is not what we're shooting, necessarily what we're shooting for, or what we want, but that, I think the cap, I would feel more comfortable saying 15,
Do you want to?
or even 13, just so it exceeds
13.
what we
I
have.
think the figurative word that's missing here is guidelines. What you're doing is setting two sides to a road. And you want to drive down the road,
Right.
and all you're doing is saying to yourself, geez, if I start getting a little too far this way, or a little too far that way, I gotta maybe make an adjustment in something. You know, making the road wider doesn't improve your steering.
But it doesn't say that here. I mean, then it says if you're over 12, you have to do these things. These are
This says-
more than.
This says
just
guidelines, this says guidelines. If you don't like the 12, if for some reason we're getting flooded with money, because Dave decides to bequeath us a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can change the guidelines, but the whole point of it is to have some idea of, you know, you wanna stay between these two lines here. That's all that really is.
Why do we need a cap?
But don't call it a cap, an upper limit.
Why do you need one? Why do you need one? The thing you're really interested in is the lower limit.
Well, you don't wanna just keep saying, we're gonna just keep raising taxes because we wanna see how much money we can
But
accumulate.
that's also a decision of the taxpayers.
That's right.
And the boards, you know, that's what we're elected to do, is to look at these things, and if the taxpayers don't agree, if they think we're hoarding too much money, we're gonna hear about it pretty quickly. I don't think we need to put this into a written policy.
There's one thing that most of the people have forgotten. Where did our $2 million reserve come from? Where did that come from? That came from Ed Newman going down to the state, getting reimbursement for the elementary school fuel spill. Okay, and we got a big chunk of money, I think it was $2.5 million from that. And I was on the board at the time, and I argued, and I said, no, we're not gonna spend that money. we're gonna save it because we don't know how much this foolish thing is gonna finally cost to clean it all up. And so they didn't spend it, and we have a nice cushion. Because otherwise, we would not have been able to take and get that up to the 2 million that we have now.
Which also says, if Ed Newman goes back a ways,
That's right.
that those two guidelines are pretty rational, because we've been inside those guidelines for
Yeah.
20 years.
Yep.
And as Donna just explained, the only reason we're kind of bumping up against the top one is Linda Bernardi shaking the trees and
Yep, and,
pulling a couple hundred extra $1,000 last year or so.
and the pool of unpaid taxes is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And, I have another comment on the guidelines of policy, is that I feel that the policy should be reviewed after every election, because we are gonna end up with new people on the board, and they should be able to take and have a say in the policy if they're gonna be serving on the board. That's my own feeling.
Anyone else?
So if we were to leave it at 12%, even though it does say guidelines, the language is pretty clear. Yeah, we have, you utilize some of that money for one of these three purposes.
Correct.
So it may make sense to make it 13% for the time being. And that gives us some time to make an adjustment and make sure we don't shoot over that number.
That's all right.
Is that
That makes me comfortable, just that putting it under what we already have, I wasn't happy with that. I just, why do that? Why do that? Why force us into doing something that we haven't made that decision to do just because we're adopting a policy?
That's the trouble with bylaws.
I'm not for bylaws.
All right, so is everyone on board with changing that to 13%?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
For the time being, resolve that.
Go ahead, Donna.
I just wanted everyone to think about this one other aspect. So you're gonna use some of this fund balance for next year, that 12.4 is now going down a little bit more. And then you have some projects at the school that you may wanna take money from your general fund, which was a discussion that you all have had, that's gonna lower this again. I'm just, so now this 13% is.
That's a mess.
It's a higher up,
Yeah, that's the
it's
next.
a higher
So
upper
just-
limit.
So that's why, that's where I came up with my numbers for, and what other towns have done. With that in mind, that there was a good chance that you were gonna take from the general fund with some schools, things that needed to be addressed. And that we would be back to 12 like that, very quickly, but 13 is, I'm on board with that.
It might be a year or so before we get down before 12. Let's do that.
It'll be by July. By July.
All right, so we are on board with
From 8 to 13% is what
8 to
we
13%, okay? And then
We changed the note at the bottom.
change the note at the bottom to reflect that the policy will be subject to an annual review.
No.
No, I was gonna say strike the portion that says which exceeds the proposed policy.
Oh, okay, all right, go ahead.
Just cut it at the 12.4 and the sentence is fine.
All right,
Okay.
Just that whole notion, the note's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
all right, okay, so we take the note out, and then
And I like Dave's idea and that
that's what I was getting to.
biennial,
Policy subject to review on an annual basis
Oh,
after the
biannual.
biannual basis, okay? Biannual basis.
at the
after-
first meeting following
Following the
municipal
election.
elections.
And there's another good thing about that is the new members who have to read the policy and become familiar with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
That's if they open their packages.
Yeah.